This presentation is going to be a story about neuroscience and religion. Science in general and religion are often thought of as being in conflict. But here I'll make the case that one science, neuroscience, is not the enemy of religion, but actually should be thought of as an ally. Why do I say that? Well, first of all, unlike other sciences that are often used to debunk religions and their ideas, neuroscience has features that complement many religious views. Religions should not reject the possible contributions of neuroscience, but rather seek to identify those aspects of neuroscience that can contribute to religious and spiritual growth. And this is the objective of this presentation. To convince you that neuroscience is relevant to religion, here's a list of shared concerns of neuroscience and religion. These are key positions of both neuroscience and most religions. I'll give you a few seconds here to read through this list, and hopefully you'll see that these are complementary and shared objectives of both neuroscience and religion. The first point I want to make is that teachings, whether they're secular or religious, can be harmful to mental health. Religious teachings avoid harm when they are based on these principles, and all, of course, are achievable in religious doctrine. Religion should embrace the physician oath of do no harm. And here's an example. Religious teaching about original sin can cause people to feel guilt and shame for the sin that arises from biological imperatives for which they were not responsible. They are responsible for failure to control sin-based biology, but they didn't create it. Self-loathing is not emotionally healthy, and sadly, sometimes religions teach people to be self-loathing. A better way to think about the Adam and Eve story is as a positive thinking metaphor, illustrating that God wants us to benefit from living a sin-free life and has given us the free will to strive for such fulfillment. The key element of neuroscience is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Religions and spiritual development are found at the top of the hierarchy in this pyramid, where actualization is only achieved when lower levels of need are satisfied. Actualization helps us deal with the vicissitudes of life. There are other ways to think about actualization, such as autonomy, relatedness, and competence. These too are key elements of the actualized state in religious development. Neuroscience is especially relevant to religious counseling. Here is a list of reasons why actualization should be sought by the counselors in order to promote religious and spiritual development. The objective of counseling should be to help people become fulfilled and happy. Cognitive behavioral therapy works to achieve this end because it is often more reliable than medication and it's complementary to positive religious affirmations. Positive reinforcement is a neuroscience way of changing thoughts and behavior in more desirable directions. It works because the brain has a reward system that tells the brain it should repeat and thus learn thoughts and behaviors that are positively reinforcing. Psychological and spiritual fulfillment require the making of right choices. Neuroscience provides guidance on the kinds of attitudes and choices and behaviors that promote fulfillment. If neuroscience helps us to make adaptive choices on being and living, it will certainly support those same objectives of religion. And neuroscience can help humans develop the same senses of morality and righteous living, optimistic hope, and personal fulfillment that religion strives to achieve. Neuroscience teaches us about all sorts of addictions. These are often developed as learned processes that establish the addiction through positive reinforcement of rewarding experience associated with the addiction. The mechanisms apply to both secular and religious situations. The brain has neural systems for deciding what are right changes. And some of these processes occur unconsciously, while others are accessible to consciousness and reason control and manipulation. The brain has neural systems for deciding right changes, and some of these processes shown in this diagram are unconscious, while others are accessible to consciousness and reason control. The brain mechanisms are the same for secular and religious choices, whether the mechanisms be unconscious or conscious. In the diagram here, the conscious processes involved in making decision are those shown in grayed circles. The brain's decision-making mechanisms are the same for secular and religious choices. Choices are learned experiences, and neuroscience shows that the memory of such learning is represented in modifications of genes. A recent international consortium of geneticists has established the surprising finding that every neuron has its own unique genome, created by that neuron's participation in specific life experiences. This is the physical basis for the claim that religious teachings actually change who we are as people. Neuroscience shows that there is far more reality than what our limited sensory experience can detect, shown in this pyramid of information where the information in the real world is far more than our sensory systems can detect. This supports the religious perspective that we, in quote, see through a glass darkly, and that therefore there are spiritual realities that we should not dismiss just because we don't detect them. Humans are generally negative thinkers. This one study, for instance, showed that 77% of our thoughts are negative. But neuroscience, like religion, provides ways to replace the learned helplessness that comes from all this negative thinking and replace it with learned optimism. The brain is programmable. We can make it think and believe in specific ways. This involves interaction of both unconscious processes, shown on the left, and conscious processes, shown on the right. You see here that these processes interact with each other, and both contribute to the formation of memories, which make us who we are as people. The information itself is represented in the form of patterns of nerve impulses in specific neural circuits that perform the processing and store the information in memory. Brain programming changes the general neural anatomy and biochemistry of synapses, which are the junctions between and among neurons. This is physically demonstrable in microscopic studies showing the observable changes in membranous processes before and after learning experience. This is the brain's way of showing that religious teaching and counseling can actually change people in long-lasting physical ways. In the diagrams here, you see that learning produces a growth of neuronal processes and an increase in the number of the little bumps on these processes. The bumps are actually the physical basis for the synapses between and among neurons. These pictures compare the dendritic density in representative rats that had been trained in a maze in just 2 daily sessions, 4 hours apart, where each session consisted of 4 trials, 40 hours apart. The trained rat is on the left, and the untrained trained rat is on the right, and the untrained rat is shown on the left. In terms of the sanctity of life, neuroscience and religion are partners in showing why life is precious and sacred. In the case of fetal development, for example, there are clear signs that the fetus in the late trimester, has already developed the basic capacity for consciousness and conscious experience. For example, the late state fetus shows sleep cycles, shows dreaming signs, and they even learn, as illustrated by the fact that music played to a pregnant mother is recognized by an infant after birth. Religion is about agape love, and neuroscience reveals the brain's basis for love, mediated in part by the release of the hormone of interpersonal bonding called oxytocin. Oxytocin is a response to breastfeeding and touch and comforting interactions. Here's a diagram of the molecule, which is obviously very complex, but the biological effect is rather simple. The oxytocin responds to caring and love and promotes it. Psychologist Harry Harlow published foundational studies many years ago showing how important love and physical contact is for normal behavioral development. Even surrogate mothers, shown here in this wired mannequin with a terry cloth covering and a simulated breastfeeding capability, promotes comfort and empathy for infant monkeys. Raised without their real mothers and without a surrogate replacement, these baby monkeys grew up to be behaviorally dysfunctional for the rest of their lives. They never improved. Religion sensitizes us to the needs of others and the proper ways of interacting with other people. Religion sometimes, however, promote dysfunctional behaviors, and here are 4 examples where religions can be harmful. Life is stressful for everybody, and neuroscience teaches us many ways to cope with stress, and these ways are consistent with the methods of religion aimed at relieving the same problem. And meditation does not have to have religious connotations, but it does for certain religions, and in any case, meditation is therapeutic. Both religion and neuroscience teach us the importance of nurturing the body through proper lifestyles involving exercise, reduction of stress, and also eating healthy foods. In an increasingly secular world, religion needs allies, now maybe more than ever. And I hope this presentation convinces you that there are synergistic possibilities between neuroscience and religion, where religious teaching and counseling can benefit from incorporating certain features of neuroscience. I recently published a book showing how brain science can bring new vigor and meaning to religious thought and practice. This book refers to triune brain in terms of our fish brain, our reptile brain, and our human brain. Our triune mind in terms of unconscious mind, conscious mind, and non-conscious mind. And a triune worldview of mental health, neuroscience, and religion. The book and this presentation will hopefully show you ways to create synergistic relationships between neuroscience and religion. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you find that this presentation has been helpful.